Streaming starting soon. We've got 15 seconds, 4 seconds, 3 seconds, 2 seconds. Thank you, by the way.
Yeah.
For being on. This will be fun.
Yeah.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Discovering Your Community. I'm your host, Tim Rist. You guys know I'm a mission-motivated man, and we got another mission-motivated human being to talk to today, Marla McColly. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
We're obviously experimenting with a new space here.
Yeah.
So bear with us on if the green screen comes back behind us, you guys are going to see the Head, Heart, and Boots podcast, which you saw yesterday. That's your clue to subscribe to them because Chris and Brandon are letting us use their space.
Yeah, it's a nice space.
So, Marla, we've got some things to talk about. You are a woman of a pretty dynamic resume, and I'll let you extrapolate on that. But obviously a staple in the Salem community, now looking at making the move over the mountain pass to Bend.
Yeah.
But still a leader in the hospitality world. You've worked with Orla for how long now?
9 years.
9 years. And you have a wealth of relationships that you've cultivated within that space and some lessons it sounds like you might be able to share with us.
Absolutely.
I'm sure people are also curious to know about what your experience was like in your most recent house sale, because you did list with Door. And obviously, because this podcast is sponsored by Discover Oregon Real Estate, where we help you find your people and find your place, we should probably hear straight from a client. What was your experience like working with Door on this most recent listing?
Well, I would just have to say that, making the decision to list your house, really, no matter the circumstances, is always going to be an emotional decision. In my case, I had experienced life circumstances that really made the timing right for me. That post divorce, I was able to stay in the house with my son, and the home no longer served us, and it was just kind of time to close that chapter of my life. And so for me, it was just time. And I think that, to answer your question about it being a good experience, I would say it was a great experience, and I really appreciate your team's support and communication, and just the understanding of what that decision meant for me.
Yeah. Well, I know that there's a lot of great agents in the Salem area that we get to collaborate with, and we never take it for granted when someone hires our team to get the job done. You did some things that were really, non-traditional in the sale process. And obviously we like non-traditional.
Yeah.
Especially if it works. But can you expound on the decision to actually have a personalized letter for the sellers that shared a little bit of that story? Like tell us about that decision, and how did you come to the courage to be willing to share that?
Yeah. So for me, it was really important to have the transaction be personal because it was home. And so, I had first shared this love letter to the house to my community. And I found that it just really resonated with folks that, a lot of times there's, especially in a life circumstance like a divorce, that there's a lot of privacy around those situations, for various reasons. But for me, I just kind of wanted to normalize that, this could potentially be part of life. And there's other folks that I think that my story would resonate with, and help them feel a connection, not only to me, but that they weren't alone. And real estate transactions can be, as I shared earlier, just such an emotional process. And, I just had the thought that maybe this is a potential buyer that's a mom that is trying to find her new home, or it's, whatever the case may be. I just felt like sharing my story would help them connect. And so, yeah, it was a non-traditional, in fact, approach to share the love letter to the house, and have it be presented to potential buyers over B-roll, and put out to the public. But I don't regret that decision because of the results that it drove. But also it kind of created a memento that I have of the house, that I can look back and I can share this with my son, and we can look on this chapter of our life with a lot of love.
I think it's so important you touched on the the response to what is typically a transactional experience.
Mhm.
And it's perhaps one of the things I'm most passionate about changing in our industry is this transactional element to something that's so deeply personable and so deeply transformational. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, you talked about results. Just for the sake of the record,
Sure.
we obviously we get some critique for our video choices that we do, right?
Yeah.
Some people love them, some people hate them, whatever.
Mhm.
But the results end up speaking for themselves. In this case, we went on the market. Tell us the stats. What happened with your door listing? How many days?
Sure. So I think you did a really good job preparing me for what to expect, right? Marla, this is the best case scenario. This is the worst case scenario. And, I felt like I entered the process being well informed that, I was willing to accept that range with as you had presented it. And you assured me, let me uh, under promise and over deliver. And so I really appreciated that. And so I think that my expectations being set where they were, being armed with just information that, we were priced right to hit the market. It wasn't that we were underpriced. I felt really good about how we, launched. And so the house had 3 offers in 4 days, and that was going into an open house. And so it was really exciting to be going into that weekend with that sort of interest in the house and just admittedly people really loving the space that had been created. And
You did a
so
great job on it. You
thanks.
definitely did your part, so that helped. That made our job a lot easier.
Yeah.
Well, bidding wars, they were frequent, obviously in a 3 and 4% interest rate environment. Not so much in the environment of 7% interest rates.
Yeah.
But I think if we were just to put that out there for a plug to the community, the real estate market is not so simple as, oh, it's a buyer's market or it's a seller's market. It really is product specific, price point specific, and location specific. And so there really are still bidding wars happening, even in this market, as we've moved from an extreme seller's market to more of a balanced market. And in the luxury market, I would just say it's important for anyone selling above $1 million in Oregon right now to realize that inventory is flooded. And if we're making promises of bidding wars in that price point, it's because there's a tremendous amount of value. But we appreciate you doing your part to work together as a team to help create the results, and really, really honored to have been on that journey with you.
Yeah.
Mm.
Thank you. Really
And to
kind.
be seeing you over to the past. So moving to Bend,
Yeah.
now you're obviously still doing work with Orla and everything, but I want to get in the meat and potatoes today of what I want to talk about, which
Mhm.
is this concept of limiting beliefs, because I know that Salem's been home for you.
For almost 36 years.
So that's a big move.
Yeah, it is.
And I think that you have, like, obviously a living, breathing example of addressing an onslaught of, I'm sure, limiting beliefs that
Mhm.
involve you now making this transition to fulfill a long-term goal of yours. So, can you walk us through that process? How did you decide to unplug and make this jump? And what are some of the obstacles that you've had to overcome even in this transition to do this?
Yeah. Well, I think it was just, at first getting really clear on what I wanted that, not only had I made the decision to sell the house, it then became a matter of, well, I've made that decision and what was next. And so I started just kind of combing back through like what are some things that I've always wanted to do and have never done. And the first thing that came to mind was how I had always felt at home at this in this part of the state. And so it was actually through a process with a coach where I was live journaling, and the prompt was, what's something I've always wanted to do and never done. And he's like, don't think about it, just start writing. And I just started writing, and the tears just started falling. And that wasn't the launch that or that wasn't the turning point for me, because I even, after that process, I had then just accepted that that
Yeah,
was something I'd always wanna do, but I didn't really think too much more of it, because at that point, it still didn't feel realistic to me.
yeah,
Um, And then I started thinking about, what are the barriers to something that I've always wanted to do? And in this particular case, it was, being a single full time mom, leaving the community that I had put roots in, um, my job.
Mm,
How was I going to be supported by my employer making that decision? How it'd be received by friends and family, and even down to things like childcare and who's gonna watch my dog, or, how would I still create that sacred space for alone time where I don't have a significant community like I do here. And I just started kind of attacking one of those at a time.
mm,
Like, okay, so, I believe that I will have difficulty finding community. So maybe that was like the limiting belief that
mhm.
was playing into this. And I started to dissect that around, okay, what are the lies that I'm telling myself around this? And so not only are the lies that I'm telling myself in my personal life, but particular to this significant change. And so I wrote through the lies, and then I changed them to truth. So I started to create affirmations around the move, in particular, the idea that community starts when I show up and
Mm,
connection is created when I show up.
I love
And
that.
yeah, and so over a period of time, I learned that I could literally rewire the way that I saw things and believed things about myself. And um, it's just been a matter of time, and I think, we think of really big decisions as insurmountable, that it's like, it's too big, I'm not gonna do it. But you really have to take these things into little bite-sized pieces and chip away.
So I think that this concept of the stories that we tell ourselves is pretty important because it's like the number one decider of our success in any endeavor, right? It's
Mhm.
like, what do we tell ourselves and about other people in the process? And so if you were to take, some of the navigation you've done around this skill set of tackling limiting beliefs, addressing them, converting them, et cetera. If an organization like many of the that you've worked with in the hospitality industry, for example,
Yeah.
or service like ours in real estate, were to come to you and say, "Hey, Marla, like we're seeing this trend of limiting beliefs within our sales team, within our staff, around any number of things." What would you share to a group of people or organization around how to tackle limiting beliefs?
Yeah, so I think it's just acknowledging what the opposite is. So if it's, I'm not good at cold calls, it's actually then changing it to the opposite and saying, I am really good at cold calls and creating connection in that format.
But what if I don't believe that? Like I want to affirm
You don't have to
myself.
believe it, you just need to start saying it.
Okay, so you're just going to basically start the spaced repetition of doing the reprogramming. Then what?
And then you're gonna tell it to yourself every day for 3 weeks, 3 times at least a day.
Okay. So this is in line with like what Bob Proctor would say that if you want to rewire your brain, you're
Mhm.
either going to have a pattern interrupt, something traumatic happens
Yeah.
in life, or you're just going to insert spaced repetition. You're saying 3 times a day over 3 weeks,
Yeah.
21 days, that eventually the product of that is going to result in what? A different outlook, a different view on the limiting belief.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, important to put together several of those limiting beliefs to create these affirmations and begin to tell truths to yourself instead. But, I think that over that time, at least on my personal experience, that you do start to believe them. And some of the affirmations that you've created around these lies, they no longer resonate with you. And you have to be careful because it can be replaced with other lies. So being just really self-aware, I think, is important. But I will say, having gone through this exercise myself, that I am a proven track record of being able to have the belief that I am capable of many things through this exercise.
I'm really fascinated to hear more about this coaching path that you've been on too. So, if someone were to be like watching your story, knowing, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, Marla's been around Salem forever, like she's making this jump, she's being true to herself on her goals. Like, Marla, I want to be more like you. I want to coach with you. How would someone get a hold of you to try to become one of your? when you're coaching
Oh
clients?
gosh, I am very accessible by phone or socials. Marla Jean on socials.
Are you open to coaching people? Like, especially if especially if there was like a in your situation, you've got a single mom. I know I'm putting you on the
Yeah,
spot
yeah.
here, but
Well, I don't think I'm at that point in my life, but I would say that amongst my peers, I would say that, even living my life in the manner that I have, especially in the last year, which is just the intention of being so authentically myself, that the conversations that have been created around that have been really fascinating. And I think just by um, intentional time with someone that I can inspire them. And I think that's just a product of connection. And so at this point, I would say I'm very open to connecting with someone or having conversations with them, and sharing more about my story and hopefully inspiring them.
well, you guys heard it here first. You get free coaching until she learns how to charge for it. I was trying to help you launch your coaching business, but Marla's too generous for that. We would love to. I would love to when we got more time to extrapolate on some of the other elements of like reprogramming. I mean, obviously, changing limiting beliefs is a whole library of content,
Mhm.
but I think this is a good reminder for anyone that's looking at needing to make a quick change. It's the simple task of spaced repetition, the
Yeah.
stories that we tell ourselves, recreating those. And a lot of your work has been in like the preparation for that. But I just want to say thanks again for letting us be a part of your journey,
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
in getting you over the mountains. And I got to give a plug to Chris's podcast since we're using the studio.
Yeah.
If you guys are looking for more great leadership lessons, obviously, we like to think we have cool content with cool local people at the Discover Your Community show. But Chris and Brandon's podcast, the Head, Heart, and Boots podcast, is really a phenomenal leadership podcast. And so I'm just going to keep plugging that for as long as we're using their space because they go live I think almost every Thursday. It sounds like they're doing another episode tomorrow. And so you guys should jump on that. Also for those that are on Instagram, say hello to everyone else on YouTube and Facebook. Appreciate you guys all. I think that is a wrap. Thank you everyone for joining in. Again, my name is Tim Rist, your host, here to help you find your people and find your place.